computer. Hi,
This meeting is being
Shaena.
recorded. Oh, sorry, there's like a message. If you'd like to allow.
Yeah,
Okay.
got it? Hi, Shaena. Thank you for being here with
Hi.
me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to do this.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. So, tell us about your journey in becoming a comedian. I know you were trying out different careers, testing the waters. What made you jump into this career path?
Um, so it's like a really there's like a lot of details that I think over the years I figured out how to say this in a much more concise way. So I can basically I was going through a lot of different career paths and testing out, just seeing like where I fit in this world. And stand up kind of just came to me. Like it was a very random moment. I went up at an open mic and it was not conventional. It was not supposed to happen that way. But I tried it and then I realized that I loved it. And I've been doing it ever since. I've always had I've always liked to make people laugh, and I've always definitely been a performer, but I didn't know you could make money making people laugh. I didn't know that it was a career.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
I think it's cool because, like, you're half Iranian, and in our culture, like, that's why I really want to have you here is to show that there are different ways of being and different careers you can have. And I feel like growing up in our culture, and I think things are changing. People, I think the parents and the kids are more open to different instead of just the doctor, the lawyer, businessman, that there are different avenues, that there's different options, and you are testament to that. And you're an inspiration for other kids in your generation where it doesn't have to be a certain way. It doesn't, now I'm seeing like these young Persian kids who are becoming chefs, and they are uh, just choosing different career paths that's not the conventional way that the way it used to be, the way our parents brought us up to, want to be, or the way they wanted us to be. And I just love seeing that in you.
Yeah, I hear you. So I absolutely, I'm with you in the sense of, for me, I definitely talk about it in my stand up. It's, when you have a family who, both my sides of my family came from immigrants or are immigrants or were immigrants. And the career paths were, like you said, it's lawyer, it's doctor, it's businessman. And what's so interesting that I've never really even thought about until now is the lack of representation I see in the media, in this industry. There's not very many Persian women comedians, or and so you're so right. That's not like a conventional path. And I was so scared, to do it and tell my parents, like, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I want to, but I'm totally, and you're right. Nowadays, it's like, oh, wow, people are, yeah, I see little kids doing and wanting different things that I would have never expected. And I think it's just, yeah, it is. It's really cool to see that there are different paths and we can take them.
Yeah, and it's possible. And it's not
Yeah.
like this distant thing, like, oh, can I really do that? Or at least try it.
Yeah.
See if it's for you. See, just give it a shot and not to have that fear of, um, can I do this? Because how do you know? And maybe if you did it and it wouldn't have worked out, you would have at least, you wouldn't have that
Try.
regret.
Mm-hmm.
Who inspired you growing up? Did you have a good support system?
Yeah, I did. My mom and my dad were always very in like, yeah, my mom, so my dad was always a really hard worker and he took care of our family. But then I also had this like amazing mom who was also very supportive in the sense of we were always very much encouraged to be ourselves, and it's weird because So there's a point, I think, when you grow up and you look back and you don't see your parents as the same superheroes that you did when you were little. And as a little kid, I remember feeling like my parents were amazing. My parents did everything they could. And then I went through this period of time where I looked back at my parents and I almost wish they would have done more. I wish I kind of look back and I'm like, oh, maybe there could have been more like things that I could have figured this out earlier if my parents were more. But more recently, I've come into a place of looking back. I feel like I had an amazing support system. Like they did everything they could with the tools that they had. And yeah, so I would say both of them. My dad is someone that I look up to. My dad's so smart and strong, and he's a hard worker and gives just amazing advice. And who's always just told me to pursue my dreams, like forever, like since I was a little kid. He always said, like, I will support you guys no matter what you do. Like, it could be anything,
Oh,
and I would be proud of you guys. Which, looking back, I think that's probably like the little voice that was inside of my head was this person who was he'd always say that. He'd be like, if you're like, want to, do something big or not big, I will support you the same. And then my mom was inspirational, not really in like her words. It was more in just like the way that I watched my mom be a really strong mom. And no matter what, like we went through really hard times as kids, but my mom always, I never knew that we were going through hard times. Like, so I feel like my mom's a big inspiration just because she just made it always seem so good. And I think that takes a lot of strength. Um, and looking back, that's one of the things. Like, I wish I would have known a little bit more about what was going on. But in a way, I think that was actually what was so inspirational about her to me was just she had this way of just making sure that we were always taken care of no matter what was happening. Even if like the world was falling apart, I had no idea.
wow. Yeah, and I know both your parents, and I see that, and especially I know your dad better, and I just see the way he glows and talks about you and just lights up, and how much he supports you, and that I feel is so important to have that support from parents and to encourage your kids instead of saying, "Are you sure you want to do that?" or, take that path. Why don't you try this? And just allow them to be who they are. I think that's beautiful. And yeah, they're great examples. Yeah.
Thank you. What's interesting is um, where I ran into what you're saying was my extended family, with my uncles and my cousins and my aunts and my, you know, those are the people that were more like, are you sure? Like, maybe you don't know, like my parents, I've never, it was more of my extended family who had a hard time. Not a hard time, but yeah, they just want you to be successful and they want the best for you. And I know that it comes from a good place, but I do think that that is sometimes what deters people from going after what they really want. It's the fear of the
I know.
acceptance, yeah, and the unknown, but also it's is my family going to be okay with this? Is
Yes.
my are my friends going to support me? Um, but yeah, but I've been really lucky. I feel like my family is very supportive. Like all of them have come on board, and my dad comes to shows. My cousins, my all of you guys. It's just the support system I have. I feel like has been a big reason of why I'm here today.
I love that. Um, so I love comedy and I love to laugh. And so that's one of the reasons why I have you here because I do feel it's a form of creativity. And and I'm assuming there's a lot of creativity that comes up with coming up with jokes. And do you ever feel stuck or is there a flow, in your process and what you do?
Yeah, there absolutely is a flow, like in the sense of you sometimes I'll just be in that flow of life and just going and creating. But then there's definitely moments of just like blocks. And what I've realized is I get into those blocks when I'm working way too much and
Mm.
not living as much. So what's funny for me, an indicator is when all my jokes start with the other day at a show or while I was on stage the other day. It's when that's all my life is, when I'm just doing shows and like not stopping to live, because that's where my material comes from, is my life.
Yeah.
So you can't have material if you're not living just, life. So for me, like one way I start to notice when I'm getting stuck is when all my jokes are about stage or work. And then to kind of undo that, I just not like take a step back or take a break by any means, literally just take a Friday and instead of go to a show, go hang out with my friends or go to a concert with my boyfriend or go to, it's the idea of, for me, being in the flow is very much just living my life instead of, I think like the hustle mentality and like the burnout is so real.
Yeah.
And so I kind of have like a check engine light that comes on for me when it's like, oh, okay, let's take a minute. Let's look at this month and take some time for myself. I think self-care is so important to my creativity because I can't create when I'm not full, when I'm not like, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely feel stuck. And
Yes.
I,
Self-care is very important, I realize too, in
yeah,
creating, because you could just go through the burnout if you just keep going, 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 and you don't give yourself time to take a break and
yeah,
relax. Yeah.
yeah. And I've learned, I wouldn't say like the hard way, but definitely I've learned from trial and error. I've had, shows every day for 3 weeks in a row or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, this isn't, you can't just continue like that. So I'm very intentional now with like, there's weekends of my month that I won't accept any shows. That's just for me to go travel. That's for me to just be home. And whereas when I first started, I was like, oh, you got to be out every single day. You got to just, and I do. I mean, I work a lot, but I'm learning how to find that balance because I really think that balance is the key to longevity in this career.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I agree. So I always admire people who go up on stage to perform. I told you earlier, I was at the Laugh Factory last night with my husband, and it was a great show. And I just love seeing people get out of their comfort zones. How did you learn to get out of your own comfort zone?
Oh, yes. So it's so cool that you love comedy. I didn't know that. Like, I know you're a creative and you're an amazing artist and mom. And like, I see the way that you want to express how you want people around you to express their creativity. And you aren't. So I think that's really cool that yeah, it's just sweet that you also like comedy. I would say, how did I learn? So I started realizing that like I have a major avoidance attachment. Like I am somebody who, if something feels uncomfortable, I would avoid it at all costs.
Mm.
Like I never wanted to be uncomfortable. I did not like being uncomfortable. And I slowly started to realize that when you make yourself uncomfortable or you put yourself in those hard positions, there's growth that comes out on the other end of that. So the first time I got on stage, I remember feeling so uncomfortable. And I remembered like, oh, Shaena, this is that thing. Like instead of avoid that feeling, let's lean into it. Let's see what could happen if you just. So I've genuinely like made my career out of just, I know how much growth comes out of being uncomfortable, and it doesn't go away. Like I wouldn't say, I mean, I'm much more comfortable on stage, but it's I'm still as anxious, but now I just call it excited. It's that same rush of emotion, but now instead of like, oh, I'm uncomfortable, it's more like, oh, I'm excited. Like I can't wait to, I've just reframed the narrative of it, but it's still just as not uncomfortable, but yeah, it doesn't get easier. I think I just get stronger at it, I guess.
That's stronger. I love what you said, like leaning into it, instead of resisting. And it's a good kind of nervous and anxiousness. And then, yeah, it's a growth that's happening. And when you shift your mindset on that and those feelings, that's when the magic happens. Yeah.
Totally. And that word is magic is how it feels sometimes. Like I'll get off stage and like you said, like it's really being in the flow. Like, and in that sense, like I don't know, like there can be moments of feeling, not stuck, but like creativity like can feel like there's a block. But on stage, it never feels like that. Like there's like this crazy thing that happens where you're just in the flow of where you're supposed to be. And whether even if it's going really bad, it's
Yeah.
still there's no like yeah, the flow is still yeah, you're just like in the flow on stage. I don't know, it's magical.
Wow. Have you ever had moments where like it's not going so well and then you're like, oh my gosh, it gets you a little more anxious or you don't know what to say or I don't know, like what do you do in those moments where you feel like so nervous and stuck? I don't know. I don't know how it is to be on that stage.
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny because what I've realized is I've done bad so many times that like that's the worst that can happen, right? Like there's no like I've already experienced the worst. It's not like it's so I think that there's like a safety in learn is knowing that the worst that's gonna happen is you guys aren't gonna like me, is I'm not gonna make you laugh. But I've developed such a trust in myself
Wow.
that like I know that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay because I trust myself to get myself through it and then still get on stage the next day. Uh, but to answer your question, like, yes, it goes bad sometimes. And I guess in the moment, it's very awkward. And you can tell, like, it doesn't throw me off, but it's definitely like, oh, you guys just aren't here with me today. Like, that's, it's definitely, it's weird. And it's what's weirder is for the people in the audience because for me it's not weird, that's normal, that's part of the thing. But if my friends are there or my boyfriend's there or my dad is there, it's like I feel bad for them because they feel more embarrassed than I do. I know like it's gonna be okay,
That's
but
good.
it's the second hand that people in the audience are like, oh, this is so bad. But for me it's like, well, it's
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that energy whenever I'm in and I see the comedian. It's like, okay, guys, like what's going on tonight, you
okay.
know?
Yeah.
And you want the person up there. I think the people in the audience, they want you to succeed and they want to
Mm-hmm.
laugh and they want to be there to be entertained and they want the best for you.
Yeah,
So,
it's
yeah.
true. I mean, I will say since I started, it's fewer and further between when I have like bad sets, like it's not that they go as bad as they did when I first started
Mhm.
because I have new tools.
Yeah.
And, I know now kind of how to read a room a little better. And so when it does start to go bad, like I have these jokes in the back of my pocket that I could maybe, like use but you're so right. The audience wants us to win. Like it's as long as you just, well, sometimes, because
Sometimes.
sometimes it's very much like either they're there with you and they want you to win, or they're kind of there with their arms crossed, like, all right, make me laugh. Like, let's see what you have, So it depends. I feel like they want you to win and they're there with you, but they're also like, okay, you think you're funny, like, let's hear
Yeah.
it, It's two.
Show me what you got.
Yes, yeah. So it's yeah, but that absolutely happens. It's I'm sure you've painted something or made something and you look at it and you're like, oh, this one is probably not it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And you're like, I don't know about this. Yeah, absolutely. So do you have any funny stories about being on stage and or just being in your field, like anything interesting?
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny because you say like funny stories. I don't know that I have like stories that are like funny in the sense of, I have definitely have had different things happen to me. Being in the Midwest, there's not a lot of Persians, there's not a lot of Jews, there's not a lot of Mexican people here. So I mean there are, but not, where I've
As
lived
much as
as
California,
much. Yeah.
obviously.
So my funny stories are definitely like the comments that I get or the, just like, oh, a lot of this is in my act. Is just the way that people in the Midwest act towards somebody who they don't know. I had somebody one time tell me after a show, oh my gosh, you're Jewish? I also love bagels. Like, things like that. Like, it's just very silly stuff. Most recently, someone in the audience, when I walked on stage and I grabbed the microphone, and before words even came out of my mouth, he stood up and he was like, "You got this, honey. You can do it." And I think he was like trying to be encouraging or supportive, but like it was just really funny because that's not, like that's like what you say to the person that's not going to finish the marathon, like the guy on the very end. Like to me, it felt very like he was trying to be encouraging and supportive, but like it just came off as like something about me read like he looked at me and was like, oh no, she needs a lot of
I think
encouragement.
she needs some
Yeah,
help.
yeah,
Oh, bless her
yeah.
heart. Isn't that what they
Yes,
say
like
about
yeah. Oh, yeah, bless her heart. That's funny. Yeah. So it's just
it?
things like that I would say are probably the funniest is just the interactions I get. People will come to me and be like, oh my God, I thought about being a comedian when I was a kid. So I could probably help you finish that one joke. Or I could probably have a better ending. It's just so it's funny, I mean, like I don't take it, it is people are people. But I would say my funniest stories are definitely just interactions like that. Just the things people say
Yeah.
sometimes makes me laugh, and then I add it to my act.
You add it to your act, yeah. I feel I see that in a lot of comedians. A lot of their like life stories and what's going on in their life at that moment goes into their act. And I
Yeah,
feel like that's the best comedy when you hear about, like one comedian last night was talking about his 2 year old, and I could so relate to everything he
like
was saying about that. And it was
yeah,
just even funnier. So
it's
I just love
it,
that.
and I think that's the point of talking about our life is because that's the one thing that we can all relate to
Yeah.
is life. And you related to the person with the 2 year old, but the person next to you may not have children and may not relate to that. But it's definitely for me, I try to cast a really wide net. And that's why I talk about like my life, just in the sense of maybe you'll relate to me being ethnically ambiguous. Maybe you'll relate to the fact that I'm in a relationship. Maybe you'll relate to the fact that I'm a middle child, or however, I do try and cast a pretty wide net just so that like I think one of the best compliments you can hear is that you're relatable.
Yeah,
Like that's just such a cool thing to hear. So
absolutely.
I try.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. I love that. What words of wisdom do you have for all the creative spirits out there?
Creative spirits, wisdom for them, I would say it's letting go of that fear that we were talking about. It's not being scared to sometimes feel stuck. It's not always going to feel easy. And I will say it's pushing through, it's persevering, even when it feels a little bit difficult. And just letting go of that fear, just doing the thing that you most want without fear of rejection or validation from the outside world. And it's learning that when something feels uncomfortable, lean into it because you never know what's on the other side.
Oh, I just love that. Yes.
Yeah.
We stop ourselves so much because of what society tells us, our culture, and our parents, whatever it is. And that's great what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what are my friends going to think about this? What is my mom going to think about this? Is my dad, my aunt, my cousin, my uncle? And it's you stop yourself because you think that they're not, and they may not like it, and they may not be supportive, but it's so sad. Yeah, and my whole life I lived for other people. I did what other people wanted me to do,
Me too.
and so I absolutely know that it can be paralyzing the opinions of other people and the thought, especially growing up in the culture that we did. It's so tight knit. Everybody knows what everyone's doing. It's such a you feel like you're under so much pressure.
Like
But
under
in
the
reality, yes, yes.
microscope.
But in reality, you can just step out of that. And I think that people forget that those are parameters we put on ourselves. It's not real.
It's not real. Yeah. And then once you do step out, you see, like, wow, look at this world that I didn't know about. I mean, I'm sure once you went into that world of comedy, just this new way of seeing life must have opened up for you, that you were totally unaware about.
Mm,
And you're like, wow, wow, this is so cool.
yeah. And it's so much fun. I think I remember when I first told you, and you're somebody who you're a part of my family, and you know how our family is,
Yes.
and you were so supportive and so sweet. You lit up, and you were like, whereas I didn't know how. Even of course you're a creative and you understand, but like just knowing that even one person in my family like lit up like that, I was like, it's sometimes like even that one thing that'll keep you going, because it's like I was so scared, and like this one person was like really supportive, and so I like try and be that what you were for me in that moment to other people, like, and I feel like you're that for so many people. Like I see you with your daughter, like trying to like get her to like show her expression through art, whatever that's going to look like when she's older. But like you cultivate such like a ground for all of your kids, to be creative, and it all starts at home. So I just think it's such a cool thing that you do that for people. And I think that that's the hardest part for people, is what other people are going to think about it.
Yeah.
And
Oh, thank you. And
yeah.
yeah, I feel like, well, that's the reason why I also do these podcasts, because I want that ripple effect. And
Yeah.
when you can be that example for that person, or just give them that encouragement, what I did for you, then you're going to pass it on to someone else
Mm-hmm.
who maybe might also have those reservations, but you give them that energy and that light that, hey, you got this, you could do it. And what's the worst that'll happen? You're not going to die,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
if it's not something that's not for you, you could go do something else. So it's not the end of the world. But just try it, because you don't want to go, later in life and have those regrets. And that's my thing, is you don't want those regrets, and it's never too late. You could be in your 30s, you could be in your 40s, and decide, hey, I don't want to do this career anymore, I want to try something else. So
Yeah. I have a friend of mine. He's a really good friend. And, I always tend to have friends that are like way older, but he's 75 and he just
um,
started comedy like 3 years ago.
what
And you're so right. You're never too, like, and I think people do. I think if you're in your 40s, if you've been doing a career your whole life, sometimes people probably feel like, oh, it's too late. And it's so sad because it's not. But you're right. I definitely think that yeah, that has such a hold on people sometimes. But yeah, I love that you're saying that. It's never, and like you said before, you could always try it. And if it's not for you, it's not for you.
It's not for you. Yeah. I also have a friend, she's 71 and she's an artist, and she is
Wow.
amazing, and her energy and just her
Yeah.
light, like she doesn't act like a 71-year-old. Like I
Yeah.
am like, I want to be like you when I grow up.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just so just full of energy and life, and like she just keeps going. Like she doesn't do pull out the old card, I'm
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
and I can't do this and I'm tired. She's just amazing, and I think they're
Yeah.
such a great example, the ones who are older and they're living their life, and they're not like, you know retiring and just, yeah, giving up. I don't know. So that's
Yeah.
good.
It's great.
So, how can people find you or see you in a show?
So a lot of my stuff is on Instagram. My Instagram is it's I go by Shaena, and also on Facebook, Shaena Rabbani on Facebook. I'm in the works of starting maybe like a website or something so that people can click on it and see all my shows. But yeah, I have shows. I will say, like, I have shows scattered all throughout the country that, like, if somebody really wants to see me, there are chances. I think that, like, there's a small chance that I would be somewhere near you in the next couple months. So if you wanted to check out a show, they could check me out on social media. I also have, I've been guest on a lot of podcasts. I have a bunch of, just stuff on my Instagram that people could also go and check out.
Awesome.
But yeah, I would say social media, Instagram and Facebook,
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yes. And you're going to be in LA, you said soon,
Yeah.
November-ish. Yeah.
Yeah. So nothing, it's not quite set in stone yet. I will be in LA at the end of October
Okay.
and again in November. So I'll inform you especially, and I'll put it on my Facebook.
Awesome.
And yeah,
And I'm gonna follow you on Instagram. I was gonna ask you,
yeah.
like, are you on
Oh, are
Instagram?
you on Instagram?
Yes, yes. So
Oh,
I'll
I didn't know.
follow
Okay,
you.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'll share all of this too. And yeah, I'm really excited to be hopefully coming up to LA soon. But yeah,
Oh, I love
yeah,
it.
follow me on Instagram.
Well, thank you for being here with me
Yeah, thank you.
today. Such a great interview. And I am just so beyond proud of you. And I've seen your journey, and I can't wait to be there for you and to cheer you on, be in the crowd, and see you up there. I've been wanting to see you in
Yeah,
action, so
thank
I
you.
can't wait for that.
Thank you so much for having me here. And like I said, Cheryl, from the very beginning, you have been a light and support in this journey. So I appreciate you saying that. And I cannot wait for you to be there and be able to be a part of it. Thank you for being the light that you are for everyone around you. So thank you for this and for having me on. I really appreciated it. And yeah, I'm gonna see you soon.
Okay. Thank you, Shaena.
Thank you so much, Cheryl.